كتاب الله دستوري كتاب الله دستوري وخير الخلق أسوتنا
بسنته انجلى نوري لهدي الحق أرشدنا
كتاب الله دستوري وخير الخلق أسوتنا بسنته انجلى نوري لهدي الحق أرشدنا كتاب الله دستوري وخير الخلق أسوتنا بسنته انجلى نوري لهدي الحق أرشدنا لزمت محاضن القرآن فذكر الله يسعدنا عرفنا إخوة الإيمان وللأخيار صحبتنا تميزنا بكل الفن وتجمع محبتنا وصدق القول نعرفه وخير الخلق يعرفنا تعالينا على الأحقاد مع المخطي تسامحنا تنافسنا بحفظ الآي وهذا ما يميزنا كتاب الله دستوري وخير الخلق أسوتنا بسنته انجلى نوري لهدي الحق أرشدنا كتاب الله دستوري وخير الخلق أسوتنا بسنته انجلى نوري
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and welcome to IQRA's virtual open house. We are so pleased you could join us on this beautiful afternoon. My name is Nicole Damani, and I am the Administrative Assistant for All Academy Program with IQRA Institute. On behalf of all of the IQRA team, I welcome you today. We at IQRA are so excited to introduce to the community two new amazing programs to our Academy lineup. Our first one is IQRA Academy Full-Time HIFZ program for both boys and girls. And very excitingly, IQRA Academy's part-time girls HIFZ program. We have a dynamic duo leading these two new programs. We have Ustad Usama and Ustad Sidra Bakai. They will be introducing themselves to the community shortly, but first we will have a word from Brother Ahmed Bakran, followed by Brother Bilal Bakai.
Bismillah. Thank you, Sister Nicole. I wanted to first welcome everybody here today. This is a really amazing time for our organization, and it's a culmination really of years of efforts and works as we have done within this community. This organization began with humble beginnings back in 2012. As you may remember, if you were part of this community, we did many traveling seminars in various in the area, and we slowly pivoted and supplemented and started doing work in our community, doing different social and inter-community programs with our IQRA community division. And then we evolved a few years later with the launch of our part-time 5-year boys HIFZ program that has been running for several years. And we've also added on several programs within our academy division. And alhamdulillah, now we're here at a juncture in our community where we are able to offer a full-time program for our community members. And me personally, I grew up in this area. There wasn't really any masajid in the area until I was probably in my middle school years. And a lot of the community members that had children that wanted to do HIFZ or do any kind of higher studies Islamically would have to travel out of state, out of country in some instances. And we are really blessed today to have a facility and have the talent and of instructors that can actually really encourage growth and the studies of our deen here in our backyard, essentially. So we are really proud of our team, the community support, and we were really blessed to have everyone here today. And I hope that everyone will enjoy the program, and please ask any questions. We're going to be available to you throughout this program via the Facebook live feed and the YouTube chat, inshallah. Thank you. Jazakallah khair, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the virtual open house.
Thank you, Ahmed. Now we will hear from Brother Bilal Bikai.
ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Welcome everybody again. We are so excited to have you join us today. We have a great lineup of events, of different programs, and our staff that are going to be sharing with you how excited we are about some of the new programs that we're rolling and some of the existing ones that you may not be aware of. I just wanted to bring to your attention an important aspect of what we have been doing as an organization through IQRA Institute and IQRA Academy in our community. One of the goals that you can probably know just from walking into IQRA Institute and the facility that we try to work on is ihsan. Really trying to put our best foot forward in any activity that we roll out to the community, whether it was the seminars that we were offering to the community, or the part-time HIS program, which we first started, or the after-school program, which has also been going on for about 4 or 5 years now. But the legwork that's involved behind each of these programs is immense. We do a great amount of a detailed study about the need for this program within the community. We send out assessments. We pick a focus group to understand how best we can implement that program within the community and how it can be most effective and enjoyed by our community members. And then once we understand our scope, we understand what that program could entail, then we look for the best instructors that could be effective at providing that information to the community at large, and really be the best person to lead that effort or that institute. And so when you see any of these programs that are already existing or are being rolled out now, you should rest assured that there's been months and months of preparation, a lot of defining of the scope, a lot of creating the curriculums before it ever comes in front of you and it gets presented in front of you. And alhamdulillah, most, if not all, of our instructors are local, are from the area, who has spent a good amount of time in the area and are familiar with the community, because we feel that one of the best ways that people really connect with the instructor is by developing a personal relationship. So as Ahmed mentioned, we're going to have a great series of programs that are going to be rolled out to you. So stay tuned. Jazakallah khair again for joining. And inshallah, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box or send an email. We're more than welcome. Looking forward to trying to answer everything for you guys, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Bilal and Ahmed, for that. And we really appreciate your leadership and diligence in bringing IQRA programming to the community. And we're so blessed to have you guys on the IQRA team. And at this time, one of the many highlights of this year, or for IQRA as we grow, is that we were able to move into a new facility that is much larger this past January. And at this time, I would like to share with you some images of the facility, just so you can get an idea if you were not able to come and visit with us, especially in the midst of this pandemic. So there you can see this is our address. Our new address is 2490 General Amistad Avenue, and we're Suite 304 in West Norriton. It also can come up as Audubon and Norristown. So if you're ever, planning to come visit with us, please keep that in mind, that the area is ever developing. So sometimes the address location will come up with those different options. This is the front of our building, how it looks like. We are so happy now. We have 6 classrooms. We came from a building that only had 3 prior. We have a large musalla area, a women's private musalla area, kitchen, 2 bathrooms with a changing station, eating area, and a rear outdoor play area, which is essential for us for the academy programs. This is the musalla area. You can see there's like a large monitor, prayer timings, and all of that. On the next slide. Oh, this is our front lobby. This is where the children will come in, and also is our elementary or pre-K and kindergarten classrooms in the front here. This is the opposite once you enter into the building, what you would see. And these are inside the classrooms for pre-K, kindergarten, first grade. This slide shows the classrooms for the elementary grades and also our middle school. This next year coming up, 2021, we will be going to the 8th grade. This shows the private musalla area for the women and also comes with a TV monitor, so you can also see the tab area and also the main musalla area. And this classroom here, we house for our Arabic and Quran classrooms. It's just easier to have a room dedicated where they can have all the materials that they need and learning samples and everything that they need. This is our lunch area in the rear of the building. And this is our wonderful outdoor space. We were able to really lock down this area to have it. We have 2 basketball courts and a little mini one for our little kids. We have 2 large picnic tables, 2 smaller ones for kids, plenty of space and like little activity things for the children to do. So we're really, really so happy to be able to offer that to the kids. And now, without further ado, I would like to introduce to you our lead instructor for our newest program, which is the full-time HIFS program, and that is open to boys and girls. We have Ustad Usama Bakai. He's going to be the lead instructor, and I will let him take it away.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear brothers and sisters, I'm very excited to be with you all and at the launch of this beautiful program, the full-time HIFZ program that is available to both boys and girls, adults and children of all ages, bi'idhnillah. It's very, very exciting because this is an opportunity for us to bring a much needed program locally to the community, where myself included, we had to travel to other areas in order to have this opportunity. But now it's a huge blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has given us the students and that are interested, the families interested in pursuing this noble endeavor, that they're able to do so right within their local community. So right off the bat, you guys, whoever's watching is probably already knows the virtue of becoming Hafiz of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a special rank for them. And on the Yawm al-Qiyamah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask the individual who has memorized the Quran to recite on Yawm al-Qiyamah, and their rank will raise according to how much they recite. So the more we know of the Quran, the higher our rank will be in Jannah bi'idhnillah. So it's a beautiful opportunity for us to gain the barakah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in the Quran and bring it into our lives. Another key point that I want to talk about is the sunnah that we have many people overlook. The Prophet ﷺ was a Hafid himself. So imagine that. So those that are going to be dedicated with us in this program, day in and day out, their schedule will be following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the huge sunnah of becoming someone who has memorized the Quran in their heart. So before we get any further, let me introduce myself. My name is Usama Bakai. I have been out of the scene for a number of years, about 5.5, 6 years. I've been away studying in the blessed city of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Madinah al-Munawwara. where I'm where I have graduated now, alhamdulillah, from the College of Sharia in the Islamic University of Medina. So my journey in Islamic studies began when I went to Canada to a boarding school. Remember, we didn't have this opportunity available back then. So I went all the way to Canada to a boarding school where they had Islamic studies, Quranic studies in the morning, and the afternoon time was dedicated to secular studies, similar to the program that we have laid out for the students here. So I memorized the Quran in Canada, and the path kept rolling, alhamdulillah, and I came to Medina. And while in Medina, I had the opportunity to study with the scholars in Masjid Nabawi and earn my ijazah in recitation, which I have a continuous chain of narrations where I learned, my teacher learned from his teacher, who learned from his teacher, all the way to the Prophet ﷺ, in the correct pronunciation and the correct recitation of the Quran. So that's just a little bit about myself, and now let's jump into the program. The goal of this program is to develop committed, lifelong learning huffaz who memorize, understand, and implement the Quran in their daily lives, and who are contributing citizens and community leaders. And you know, this is just memorizing the Quran is just the first step. It's a lifelong journey of coming closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and developing that relationship with the Book of Allah. So the objective of this program obviously is to get that first level of memorizing the entire Quran with its proper recitation and with strong retention, and also mastering the rules of tajweed. We'll expand upon this a little later. And another objective of this program is to learn the spiritual benefits of the Quran and its practical application. It's not enough that we've memorized the book. We have to go above and beyond that and implement that into our lives. We have to become motivated individuals who are constantly growing and coming closer to the Book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through our actions and through our ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's what this program wants to be, a holistic approach, inshallah. So who's this program tailored to? So anyone that's available in the morning time, the classes are going to be from 8 a.m. to about noon time. We'll go into the details about that in a little bit, but it's available to anyone. But the minimum age to be accepted into the program is at least 8 years of age or older, and there can be exceptions made based on the maturity and the ability of the student. And the reason we have this age is the level of students we need is that are self-motivated and they're able to sit and learn the Quran on their own, because a lot of this is self-discipline and spending your own time in learning and memorizing. So in order to be able to qualify for this program, you need to have a basic level of fluency in reciting the Quran, and you have to have a basic level of applying the rules of tajweed. So we're not going to be starting from Alif Ba here. There are other classes available through IQRA Academy and so forth that you can enroll your children in. But we're looking for students who already have a proficiency so they can jump right in to start memorizing, inshallah. Obviously, we're going to be working on tajweed rules and makharij and so forth with the students while they're memorizing. And we do have the summer intensive program, which will be discussed later on, to help those students that are almost at that level, and but they want to perfect their recitation so they're ready to go in the fall semester, inshallah. So let's talk about our approach. This program has been really, we did a lot of brainstorming. We looked at all the programs and we tried to find the best fitting opportunity for the students that would be conducive to this environment that we're living in the Oaks, PA area. So our approach is to have a well-designed curriculum with benchmarks and a clear roadmap. I'll discuss this in the next slide, inshallah. And we have qualified instructors and a great administrative staff. They've been working very hard to put this program together. And we have a motivating spiritual learning environment with emphasis on character building and leadership. As I had mentioned, we want a holistic approach where we're not only having students memorize the Quran, but understanding what's inside the Quran to make the transformative experience, inshallah. We want to focus on the quality of memorization, of creating huffaz who retain the Quran and they're able to keep it with them the entire life. There's many hadith that talk about this, how the Quran slips away. If you don't review it, if it's not in constant revision, it's going to slip away. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from that, and whatever Quran that each and every one of us have memorized, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes that firm in our hearts, and that we're able to keep it retained. We're also going to focus on tajweed. And a component that's interesting here is we're going to be integrating technology into the Quranic education. And I think this is going to be a really neat new approach, where students who've already been accustomed to using technology in their daily lives will have this opportunity of using that in their Quranic studies as well. So a little bit about hifz for those who are unfamiliar with the topic, with the subject area. There's a whole science you can read. There's many books about this as well, about how to memorize the Quran. But basically, it's a three-step process of 3 components that are included in this process. There's the new lesson, the recently memorized, and the revision. So these are 3 components. The new lesson, obviously, everyone is familiar with, and with what parents are most concerned with most of the time. So new lesson is very important. It's what the student memorizes and recites to the teacher. The next part, I would say, is the most important aspect. It's what the student has recently memorized. The last 5 or 10 lessons, they are supposed to review that, make that perfect, and then recite that to the teacher as well. And what this does is that it keeps the new lesson constantly fresh in the mind of the student. So it goes from their immediate memory to their sustained memory, where it becomes a part of their long-term memory. And then obviously the key component that is a revision, where the student will review the juz that they have previously memorized. And I want to highlight again the emphasis on the recently memorized. When we're dealing with the students, we'll go to much greater detail. But the recently memorized, basically, it makes sure that your new lesson, it becomes really strong. If your recently memorized is strong, then your new lesson became strong, and your revision will become strong. So we use this 3-component process for hifz, and it's a traditional method that has been successful for hundreds and hundreds of years. So let's talk about a little bit about the milestones and testings and the means that we're going to have to keep the students in check. So after each student completes a juz of the Quran, there are 30 ajza. So once they complete one entire juz, they will be tested. They will stop their new lesson, and they're going to be tested on the entire juz. That could take a day, 2 days, depending on how strong the student's new lesson recently memorized was. So if they kept up to par with their recently memorized, then this test will be very easy for them. It will be a walk in the park. They'll be able to get it out in no time. After every 5 ajza that the student completes their memorization in, inshallah, there will be a cumulative test. And for this, the student would take a break from their new lesson for a period of a couple of days, depending on how good the revision is. And this is really to make sure that each step that they're taking forward is not a step backwards as well. So you can continue memorizing on one end, but if you're forgetting it on the back end, you're not really moving forward. You're just going in circles. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that. And remember, the end goal is to memorize the entire Quran in its totality, and that is only achieved once we have a level of understanding of how good the student has retained their memorization. So the program will be considered complete when the student does 3 cycles of the entire Quran to the teacher. So moving on to the next component, we're going to be talking about how we're going to integrate technology into this program. So the first step we're going to use is the Quran app. It is to help students that may learn through audio skills versus just reading. So we're going to have an app where they can listen to the Qari on repetition, and that breaks down syllable by syllable, the pronunciation as well. And they can also test themselves, record what they recite within the same app, record what their lesson is, and they can hear it back, and they can fix any mistakes that they have while looking inside, inshallah. And the second really cool, interesting feature that we want to incorporate into this program is the virtual student log. So as a teacher, I would be able to put into a log that their new lesson is from ayah 110 to ayah 115, five ayahs. And then that will show up in the student's portal, where the parents will have access to that and the student will have access to that as well. So it's a good way to track progress as well. It's a good way to see where at the end of the semester, at the end of the month, we'll be constantly be in communication with parents as well, inshallah, to see where the student is struggling, where they're excelling, and where we can what we can do to mitigate that, inshallah. And as we discussed, we want this program to be a holistic approach of going beyond just memorizing the Quran. So in order to accomplish that, we've incorporated 2 days a week of tarbiyah sessions. These are short 20-minute sessions in which the students will be benefiting from spiritual guidance, learning about things related to the Quran, relating to the life of a proper Muslim should adopt, and how they should hold themselves to a higher standard now that they are a hafiz of the Quran. And it encourages students to adopt Quranic morals in their lives. And it's short sessions, but they're meant to build upon one another and to, inshallah, leave an impact on the student. So let's look at the sample day, how we would approach this program. So it's jam-packed, but it's for the betterment of the student. As you can see, the day starts at 8 a.m. and we have Quranic studies from 8 until about 12:45, and then the students will have a gap for Dhuhr and lunch, and then right after that, they are jumping into their secular studies, which will be managed through IQRA Academy. So the first portion of the day is where the student comes in, and hopefully they've already memorized their new lesson. They'll arrive and they'll just polish up the last few mistakes that they may have and recite it to the teacher. And then they will go back and start reviewing their recently memorized. And then they would come up to the teacher again and recite that portion. And then at 9:45, they will have a break of 15 minutes or so. They can get some of that energy out, run around, freshen up, do a fresh wudu, inshallah. At 10 o'clock, we will reconvene. So this is a hypothetical situation. As of yet, it has not been confirmed. But those students that are part of the PALC's academic studies program, they have to have a live session 2 days a week with the PALCs. So they would have whatever time that PALCS dedicates, we would adopt that into the schedule, inshallah. So those students that have to do that, at that time, they would use this time to go and, for that 1 hour session, go attend the PALCS meeting and then come back to the Quran class, inshallah. And the remaining students who are maybe they're full-time HIF students, are not doing the secular studies, or maybe they had their PALCS meeting was on a different day, they would continue with the Quran, and they would do the revision at this time. And revision takes a long time. This is where a lot of the students' day is going to be going into. A lot of parents think that memorization of the Quran is just strictly memorizing. It's a bigger, greater process than that. It's as I had mentioned, 3 components, and they're equally important. And we need to keep stressing the importance of revision and recently memorized, as those are key components, and a lot of time will be dedicated to that. At 11 o'clock, we will have the supplement sessions. As I had mentioned, 2 days a week will be tarbiyah, and the other 2 days we'll have tajweed classes. So at this time, we will focus on learning the actual rules. So during the class time, we'll be focusing on fixing the students' recitation and fixing up minor mistakes and so forth, helping them with makharij. But at this time, we will dedicate to learning and implementing the actual rules and practicing them to have the academic side of the tajweed as well. And then the students will have a 15-minute break from 11:35 to 12:45. They'll continue on with their revision, and if they finished early, they can get a head start on their next day's lesson. As I had mentioned, we would have the dhuhr and lunch break at this time. Students would have about 45 minutes to eat their food and pray their salat al-dhuhr. And after that, the IQRA Academy would take over, and the students would do their secular studies managed through the IQRA administration. So as you had seen in the previous slide, this is a jam-packed schedule. It's not meant for everybody. So you need students that are dedicated, they're motivated. You have about 3-4 hours of Quran in your schedule. So you need to have a strong relationship with the Quran. Obviously that can be developed, but if someone has no relationship to begin with, you might want to pick a easier program to begin with, because this is a high standard that we're expecting the students to jump into this for 4 hours. But inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put barakah in their time and efforts and help them in staying motivated through that, inshallah. So we need students that are committed and motivated to memorize the Quran. It's difficult if the parents are forcing the student into the program. I advise that you really talk to your children and make sure that they're on board and that they don't feel that they're being compelled, because you don't want to invest so much time and for them to invest so much energy, for us, the administration, the teachers to invest so much energy into the students, and then you realize at the end of the day that the program wasn't meant for them. And not everyone has to become a hafiz at the end of the day. It is a huge, huge virtue, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does have a huge reward written for it. But there are other ways to be a contributing Muslim in the ummah. So I do advise you to pray istikhara, do shura, feel free to reach out to me regarding questions and so forth. But as far as expectations for students, they need to be able to study independently. So as a teacher, I'll be sitting there, I'll be listening to students individually, listening to their new lesson. However, the remaining students that are they need to continue practicing their lesson, preparing for their own recitation. So they need to be able to stay focused on their own without having someone watch over them constantly. While the teacher will be there to monitor the class, the onus is on the student to continue reading and stay motivated throughout the process. And again, students are expected to have an hour or 2 hours on weekdays. Even after they arrive home, they need to use the time in the evening to memorize their new lesson and be prepared to come in the next morning to recite the lesson. And a really important component is utilizing the weekend. You have Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday after you get home, that whole time, I remember in madrasa when we were back in boarding school, that was our prime time to memorize as much as we could, because come Monday morning, we want to be ready in front of the teacher, ready to recite extra, because we had those extra hours of preparation time to learn more new lesson. So another component is students are expected to avoid all things that may negatively impact their hifd, and we can discuss that later on in detail bi'idhnillah with the students that are going to be going with this program. There is a big expectation from parents. It's not a program where you can just drop off the students and think, khalas, my job is done. The parents must play an active role in creating a supportive environment for their child through this blessed journey. It's not easy for the child, and they need the parents' support in this. So the parents are expected to provide a structured environment for their children that will help their education, that will help them foster an environment where they feel comfortable reciting inside the home, where the parents are allowing them the time to dedicate to reciting and memorizing their new lesson and do their revision. And even listening to them, let's say they think they're ready, they want to review they want to recite to you a couple pages to make sure they got it down. You as parents may need to be able to step up and help them out in that process. The age-old question, how long does it take to become a hafiz? And wallahi, if there was an answer out there, I would love to give it to you, but unfortunately, it differs from student to student. Every student is different. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses people in different ways. Some people are blessed with the strong memory. They can read it one time and it's there. It's going to stick there for the rest of their life. Other people, like myself, and other people have a challenge. They have to repeat the same verse 10, 15, 20, 40 times before it sticks in their head. So the process is different for everyone. The time frame is different for everyone. I know people that memorize the Quran in 1 year. I know the people that spent memorizing the Quran in 6 years. And alhamdulillah, we have a structured program where the student is able to develop, put their full effort forward, and the environment is conducive to them and to helping them achieve this goal as soon as possible. But there is no fixed time frame. It's upon the student. For example, my friend, he has 3 kids. He has a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, and an 8-year-old. And the 10-year-old knows 17 juz, while the 12-year-old, who's 2 years older than him, who has been memorizing Quran for 2 years more than him, only knows 10 juz. So you can see that it's different, and they're from the same parents, right? So it's not something that's hereditary. It's something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses with to people on different capacities. So please be patient with if you do put your students in this, realize that this is a long endeavor and it's different for each student. But we will keep you up to date. We will let you know about their progress and see how the timeline is for each student, inshallah. So how do you get your children enrolled? How do you get yourself enrolled? If you are interested, the admission process is very simple. There's an application you can fill online. After that, we will have an interview, one-on-one, see where you stand with the Quran, how your recitation is, if this program is the fit for you. or if there's or if you need the summer intensive and so forth. And we will also be meeting with the parents for those that are younger children. We'll also be meeting with the parents to make sure that the family is able to house that environment where the student will be able to thrive and be able to memorize the Quran. And another component is those students that are planning to be in the Hifz program and the academic program with IQRA. They have to apply and be accepted into PALCS. I do encourage you, if you are planning on taking that route, to be as early as possible on that, inshallah. And Sister Nicole will go into details regarding the admission process and so forth. So if you hang around for that, inshallah. So I was talking about this a little earlier. The summer intensive program is designed for those students that want to have that extra boost and create that relationship with the Quran before they go into the dive into the deep end, as I would like to say. So it's going to be starting from June 29th. June 29th all the way until August 14th. It's about 2 months. And we're going to be meeting 5 days a week from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. I would actually highly encourage everyone that is interested in this program to join the summer intensive. And that way you can get a gauge about yourself if this program is meant for you or not. And for those that are really committed, it will help you. It will give you a boost. It will give you that extra jump that you need to start the program running when it comes September, inshallah. And for some students, we may even make it mandatory, depending on their level. So if they are struggling with some letters of or struggling with tajweed rules and so forth, we might ask them to really consider joining the summer intensive before they join the full-time program, inshallah. So some key dates to keep in mind for those that are, inshallah, committed to this program. May 22nd, alhamdulillah, the registration opened and we already have applications. I'm very excited about this, but I would encourage all of you who are considering the program, apply as soon as possible. We do have a limit. In order to maximize the output, we need to have a student to teacher ratio that's conducive for the classroom environment, small classroom size, so the teacher is able to give the attention to the student as needed. So there is a limit, and I encourage you to apply as soon as possible so we can get that sorted out earlier than later. The interviews will start June 20th. So apply. That's coming up next week. If you do apply later on, we will try our best to have your interview at a later date. But I do encourage you to apply sooner than later. And the summer intensive, as I had mentioned, is from June 29th to August 14th. And the actual program will be starting September 1st, inshallah. Over here, we just have a quick rundown of the tuition. You can take a look at that, inshallah. And I know the situation is not too good in America. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove the pandemic and alleviate the community and the Muslim community and all those that are suffering, and allow us to congregate once again and make us amongst those that are committed to the masjid and coming regularly without fear, without any harm befalling us because of our undertakings. So just to be clear, the program will continue, inshallah, despite the COVID-19 situation. So alhamdulillah, IQRA is doing their best in researching and looking at what's best for the students and for the families. There's plan A, B, and C. Inshallah, they will go into details about that. But the program will continue, even if it has to continue online. We'll use an online platform to continue the program, and the students will still be able to do their academics portion through PALCS and then do the Hifz portion with myself and the IQRA team, inshallah. So that is it for my presentation. Jazakallah khairan, ahsan al-jaza. I am here to help you in your decision making. I am fully available to assist you in any way I can, and whether it be asking about your child specifically or asking general questions about the program, feel free to ask questions. You can write them in the comment section, or you can email us or call us later on, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan, ahsan al-jaza. I encourage all of you to do istikhara. For those that are seriously considering this program, do istikhara. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, is this the best path for my child? ask your children, do shura, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala barakah in all your efforts and endeavors. And I look forward to meeting all of you soon, inshallah.
Ustad Usama, thank you so much for that overview. And just a quick thing I want to say is to see this program come from, you know, a request from a community member to, you know, on the agenda for a meeting, to its development, to its now rolling out for application and admissions is really like a blessing from Allah to let this kind of programming come to the community where, as you mentioned before, we don't have to venture to another country, to another state to have that. We have it, as Bilal mentioned, in our backyard. So as Ustad Usama mentioned, the program has two components to it. You can either include your secular education with that through our PALCS programming, or you can have it just as solid as the HIPS program. So now we're going to introduce to you Sister Elizabeth Tannen. She is the director for the full-time school. She can give you a brief overview of how PALCS works and what that details. So Sister Elizabeth.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Alhamdulillah. I'm better known as Sister Ellie, and I've had the pleasure of being the director of IQRA Academy for the past 2 years, and I've had the pleasure of working in Islamic education in some part for the past 20 years. So alhamdulillah, Muslim kids are my passion and giving them a great education with lots of exposure. So if you are enrolling into the IQRA Academy program, which partners with the HIPS program, our students will be enrolled in PALCS. PALCS is Pennsylvania Leadership Charter School. It is ranked the #1 best online school in PA for the past 3 years. That's why we chose it. Students will log in every day to complete online schoolwork. Courses were created and they're taught by PA certified teachers, and the courses align with the PA Common Core standards. So if you're enrolling with us, you will be in PALCS. What PALCS expectations are for students that IQRA has as well is 4 to 5 hour day. Students are expected to practice self-regulation. Students are expected to be able to independently log on, view their lessons for the day, and get started. Students are also responsible for their laptops, materials, any things that come from as PALCS as well. Now, students' expectation. IQRA operates under the true assumption that every student is unique and has different skills and abilities. No students are alike. So mistakes are expected in this learning journey and encouraged as they present learning opportunities. So even though we have this online learning module, 100% on all assignments is not the ultimate goal. What our ultimate goal for our students at IQRA is to have authentic learning and develop a growth mindset. So we want our students to be able to take risks and step out of their comfort zone. So sometimes parents become a little reluctant on online learning, but in IQRA, what we have experienced, this works twofold. Our students are able to have sort of the best of both worlds. We can have a great Islamic environment, and then we can also have a great secular education as well. So what are our student expectations? We want our students to demonstrate exemplary Islamic behavior, conduct themselves with respect, integrity, and dignity at all times. We demonstrate age-appropriate maturity and responsibility, develop self-regulation and independence. And our ultimate goal truly is to have self-advocacy. We want our students to be able to advocate for themselves. And this ties in hand with Brother Usama, what he said in regard to the students being motivated doing their work. That's the same thing that will happen with the PALCS work. If a student needs some help, they need to be able to speak up and say, I need some more support with this, and we're there for them. So what does IQRA offer in regard to classroom support? We offer small group lessons with IQRA staff. So Monday, Wednesday will be English, language arts, and social studies. Tuesday and Thursday will focus on math and science. We have writing lessons that will be scheduled based on, timing and availability. If any student needs it, we have a certified Wilson reading specialist available. All our staff have already worked in schools, public schools, and private schools and have come with great experience, and they're familiar with using the PALCs. So if you're considering this option, I think it's great for our students. Now, if any of our student comes to PALC and something's not going well, they need extra support, we have that support from PALCs. They have differentiated virtual lessons. They have an EAGLES program, which they do assess every student. So this is not just a one size fits all. PALCs individualizes learning, and we've experienced that at IQRA because we can see it. If a student needs extra support, they'll give it to them. If a student needs enrichment, they'll also have access to that. They have homework help that's nightly. PALC's teachers office hours by appointment. So if there's a specific thing that a student needs help on, as well as their IQRA teachers, they have access to their PALC's teachers. And they do offer other educational sources, for example, online learning tools that help them with math, reading, some also as well for science and social studies. So working together with PALC's really gives a great benefit to our students at IQRA. So that's basically our overview of how PALC's will work with the HIFS program. So we have PALC's, it's work. We've done it for 2 years. Our students have been successful. But one of the best things that IQRA offers is Islamic environment. And I truly believe that students need to see a reflection of themselves in the classroom. So it is a blessing for students to be able to come to school to make their salat, make dua, and all these things that you can't find in other locations. So sometimes as parents, we always wonder what's the best choice. But, you know, at the end of the day, I strongly feel as though we can get extracurricular for other things, but you cannot get extracurricular for your soul. So we have to have our students, you know, strongly grounded in their deen, inshallah, and being part of Islamic education. I see that. And just recently, I've had the pleasure to see some of my Muslim students that I taught in kindergarten are actually graduating as college graduates, married, still practicing this deen. So, you know, alhamdulillah for IQRA Academy to pursue this venture. You know, it's hard work, but at the end of the day, it's worth it. And it's a blessing to see the fruits of your labor. So inshallah, you know, I can't wait to see what comes out of this HIFS program.
Thank you, Sister Ellie, for that. Now we're going to go to some questions here that I see on our chat. Just be patient with me 1 second. I will do my best to read your question and then either answer myself or direct it to the person that it could best be answered. One question, if you would like to talk to me or contact the school, you can do so after our program is over. Obviously, I'm here, so I won't be able to answer the phone. But one of the questions that you have here is, what is the recommendation you have on what memorization schedule they should follow at home along with the full-time HIFS program? I will give that to Ustad Usama.
So the question regarding the schedule for the students to follow at home, including the full-time HIFS program. So ideally, the student should spend the time between Maghrib and Isha for either dedicating that to Quran. So I'm not sure what time Maghrib is back in Pennsylvania currently, but over here in Medina, we're talking about from 7:30 to about 9 o'clock. So you have an hour and a half, that time period, where you could, because it kind of constrains it now, that the student has, that from Maghrib, I got to sit down. I'm going to pray Maghrib with my family or at the masjid and so forth. And then from that time until Isha Salah, the adhan for Isha happens, an hour and a half, I will be sitting and doing my Quran. So that's one method. Another way to do it is, it varies on the student, right? Some students, after they come home, they feel a bit tired, they need to relax. So after about an hour, let's say 6 o'clock, get an hour in of Quran, or some students like to break it up. So it varies from person to person, but I would encourage having at least an hour and a half, 2 hours of Quran. If you're able to break it up, alhamdulillah, maybe do an hour once you get home and an hour before bed. And during the years of when you're memorizing Quran, this time is where you're dedicated to this purpose. You have a vision in mind. You realize the students that you're so focused on the Quran, you tend to forget things. Other things seem less important. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts barakah in your mind and your mindset that you don't get distracted as easily.
Okay, another question here
So I hope
is,
that
can
answered the
adult,
question.
I'm sorry. Another question we had was, can adults enroll in the part-time HIFZ program? Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, you can.
Yes.
When Brother Abdullah comes on, he will even explain to you like some major accomplishments that we've had with adults in our program. And then another question that came through, and maybe Brother Usama, you can answer. They're asking about the program for a 5-year-old. Just from like the PALCS part of it, they would have to be able to be entering into kindergarten to do the PALCS portion of the full-time school, if that is something that they were going to be entering in. But I do recall that Ustad Usama did mention that the program would have to have like an exceptional allowance for somebody that's under the age of 8. So if you want to just elaborate more on that, Ustad Usama.
Yes. Yeah. So the youngest age that I was okay with was 8 years old, but after discussing with the rest of the team, and we are ready to make exceptions for 7-year-olds. But anything below that, I think it's a bit challenging to host them within the environment, the classroom environment, because younger children do need more one-on-one attention. So unfortunately, with a classroom size, we would not be able to accommodate someone younger than 7 years old. So it is a big endeavor to teach someone that young. But mashallah, young minds are brilliant and they're able to latch on quickly. So in the future, I do hope that we're able to have more teachers that will allow us to take on children that are younger age as well. And just to go back a little, backtrack about adults. Adults are more than welcome to register and participate in this program. And I would actually encourage college students as well. If they think that they're up for it, they can schedule their classes to have all evening classes and attend this morning session 5 days a week. I know I had a friend who memorized the entire Quran while he was an undergrad with me at Temple University. So I really looked up to him that he was able to manage his time in that way. If you have a program like this that's facilitating that, and you're able to do both studies, by all means, go for it. And adults are more than welcome if they're able to find it conducive to their schedule as well.
Okay. We have one last question I will take before we move to Brother Usama. So the question is, what challenges do you see in regards to being able to manage the time needed for HIFZ and the secular education, homework assignments, etc.?
Can you repeat the question, please? I didn't quite catch it.
They asked, what challenges do you see in regards to being able to manage the time needed for HIFZ and the secular education for homework assignments, etc.?
The time needed for homework assignments in terms of PALC studies, or the assignment from the HIFZ class?
I think probably just like combining both. For the HIFZ, like what would be required for them to memorize HIFZ along with their secular education. They're saying, what challenges do you see? I think it would, my personal opinion, I would say is probably time management.
So it is a bit of a challenge for the student to balance both, but it's definitely doable. There are plenty of examples out there of Hufaz, myself, my brother, and many others that we know that memorize the Quran while continuing their secular education. It is a challenge in terms of balancing everything, and but it's definitely doable if the student is motivated. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, subhanallah, when it comes to Hufaz, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends special mercy. I'm not exaggerating here. Things that will take me longer to understand, I'm now able to understand it quicker. Even when it came to academic portions such as mathematics, I don't know, things began to stick quicker because I had this experience of memorization. For geography and so forth, other subjects, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened his gates of mercy and we were able to retain information at a quicker pace when it came to academics as well as with the Quran. So you notice that this barakah effect that you don't find in any other science, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a special mercy for the Hufaz, that they're able to balance both of these studies. And especially young children, you'd be surprised that they have such a high capacity of learning and memorizing and being able to balance many things at the same time.
I think one thing definitely will be the support of the parents, providing that structure and that environment. So really it's going to be a team approach with the HIFS program, PALTS with IQRA supporting with that, and then the parents as well play a big role. So just to develop that time and structure for the student on a daily basis, as well as the weekend.
Definitely.
And for and the good news that I'll give, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say that for anybody who has already applied, you will be being contacted to be scheduled to meet with Brother Usama on the 20th. I believe he mentioned that he will be holding interviews on June 20th. So you can look for an email confirmation for a time coming this week, inshallah.
And I want to give the good news that you guys have this program locally. I had to travel out to a boarding school. So I'm sure everyone's heard of madrasa horror stories, but alhamdulillah, I had a great experience. But at the same time, being at home, you have access to other comforts and luxuries. So you have your family is supporting you. You have the IQRA team supporting you. You have a teacher that's supporting you, and the parents are there to help with both the academic portion and with the portion of the program. And alhamdulillah, we're adopting the online technology component as well. So the parents are able to play an active role in participating in the students' progress. So I don't see it as a challenge, but I see that as an opportunity that we're able to, as we say, get the best of both worlds. Be able to pursue your academic career while at the same time pursuing this noble endeavor of memorizing the Quran.
MashaAllah. Okay, so at this point, keep your questions coming. You can continue to put them in the chat, and we'll be happy to do our best to answer those. But at this time, we're going to move on to Abdullah Bakran, and he's going to discuss with you our longstanding, backbone of what started IQRA is the part-time boys HIFS program. He's going to discuss that with everybody and then introduce our new girls.
Okay, thank you, Sister Nicole. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala al-mursaleen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Of course, thank you guys for joining the IQRA Academy virtual house. And of course, everyone's eagerness to learn more about our educational programs for yourself and for your children. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward all of you for all of your efforts, inshallah. Again, my name is Abdullah Bakran, and I'm currently the director of the part-time HIFS program since 2016. It's to say the least, it's been a very, very exciting journey from where we were to where we are now. Alhamdulillah, and now expanding and launching our full-time program. I know we've been talking about that for years now, and also to a girls' part-time program. So this is very, very exciting news, alhamdulillah, and I'm happy to welcome and work with Ustad Osama and Ustad Sidra, inshallah. So, to jump in to tell you a little bit about myself, I grew up in the King of Prussia area, born and raised. I went through the Upper Merion Area School District education system from elementary school all the way to high school. And when I was in about 9th grade, I decided to pursue the path of memorizing the Quran. Again, I know you heard it many times in this presentation. At that time, there wasn't any local opportunities for us to do that. So I had to travel to different cities within the USA at a young age and leave my family. So some of the cities I went to was in Atlanta, New York, and Chicago. And during that same time, I was able to do the online classes into 9th and 10th grade. And then I went back to high school in 11th grade. So to answer some of those questions, it is possible as long as you manage your time properly, and you need to have that drive and motivation. And anything is possible. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes things easy for you. So after high school, I decided I lived in Saudi Arabia for a few years. I completed my diploma in the Arabic language at IQRA University in Mecca, and following that, I completed my bachelor's degree in Sharia from IQRA as well, University in Mecca. And currently, I'm now an IT project manager at Amerisource Bergen here in Chesterbrook, PA. So the program objectives. Again, the program objectives here is to develop quality huffaz for our communities. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Khairukum man ta'allama al-Quran wa 'allamahu." The best of you are those who learn the Quran, memorize the Quran, and teach it. So that's what we want to do, of course, with sincerity. That's what we try to do and implement here at our program. Again, growing up, even when we were in Ramadan time during Taraweeh, we would have to bring people, not only in the US, we had to bring people from overseas. We didn't have any local hafad or hafad within, within the US even. So we would bring people from the UK and other countries. So one of the goals are to, of course, have that full circle, have the student learn, memorize the Quran, and eventually teach it as well and pass it on to other generations, and of course, be able to facilitate the masajid with tarawih and kind of benefit the younger generation in our community here. Another, if you can go back to the last slide, actually, another component is, of course, to create an Islamic environment for our children while attending public schools. That's a very important piece of it. So again, this is a part-time program. So the majority of the time they're in the public schools and kind of around the non-Muslims and not having that kind of Muslim environment, or having those Muslim peers that we want. So I remember one of the parents who had multiple children, he mentioned the most important point is for them to have that environment and give them that, build those bonds with those Muslim peers and build those connections, and having that environment when they come to IQRA and talk about Islam and being able to pray in jama'ah and things like this. So that's a very, very important component, I felt, in these last few years of the program. And of course, the ability to be able to recite the Quran with the proper pronunciation and tajweed rules. So while they're memorizing the Quran, we try to make sure we implement the proper tajweed. So this next slide is it's very refreshing and rewarding for me. So if you look at the first picture on the top left, this is back in 2016 when we first launched the program, and if you see some of those students, they're about a foot shorter than me. And then if you look at the bottom right, the same students are about a foot taller than me. So that's very rewarding and refreshing for myself personally, being able to see the children, seeing their, watching them with my own eyes grow into young adults, practicing Muslims in this area, and subhanAllah, like Ma'ad, for example, mashallah, and some of the other graduates we have completed the program with us, and now are in the revision phase, and kind of we're mentoring them to start teaching and also leading Taraweeh. So it's very rewarding for myself. So some of the accomplishments that we have here is we have 3 students that have graduated, meaning memorized the Quran from start to finish. And to touch up on one of those questions about age limit, Hafiz Iqbal Zaman, mashallah, he's a full-time father, and he had a full-time job, and he was able to memorize the whole Quran in a couple of years as a part-time program. It's just the motivation, it's the drive the person has. Anything is possible. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes things easy. He used to come to just drop his son Ma'ad off to class, and then he decided that he wanted to pursue it as well. So subhanAllah, they both started around the same time, and both completed around the same time. So mashallah, it is possible. And we also have brother Hafiz Sami, who also graduated with us last year, who finished when he was about 13 or 14 years old. So that's very exciting news for IQRA Academy here. And then we also have 3 students that are expected to complete the Quran in the next few months. One student has about 3 ajza left. Another student has about 4 ajza left, and the other student maybe 7 or 8. So within a year, we'll have 3 more graduates. Again, and all these, all of our students are full-time students in the public schools in the local area. And then right now we have about 10 current enrolled students in the program, and it kind of in the last couple of years it varied from 10 to 15 students. Yep. So you can move to the next slide. All right, so our program consists of 3 days, and the schedule consists of 3 days a week. We have every Tuesdays, Thursdays from 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., and then on Sundays from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. So this is also going to be the girls' part-time HIFZ program for both boys and girls. So the student expectation during class it's kind of broken up in 3 parts. Number 1, the student will recite the new lesson for the day of whatever was assigned to them from the previous class. They'll recite that as soon as they come in, and then they'll recite their revision from the current juz that they're in. So for example, if they're halfway done the 30th juz, then they will recite their new lesson, and then we'll have them recite from the very beginning of juz, from the beginning of the juz, from Surah An-Naba. And then the third piece of that is they will recite the revision of the previously memorized ajza. So if they have 5 ajza memorized or 7 ajza memorized, they will recite, depending on the student's level, either half a juz, a quarter of the juz, or a full juz. And just a touch point, we don't have as much classroom time as the full-time program, so it's imperative for the students to be able to recite at home as much as possible. The more time you give to the Quran, the more results you'll get and more success you'll get. So it's imperative for the parents to be very involved, and that was a difference between the success of our current students in this last couple of years. I've seen the environment that they have at home, the support that they have from their parents is the difference between a successful student to complete and achieve their goal of memorizing the whole Quran. And then the eligibility, of course, is similar to what Hafiz Usama mentioned. Again, the standard is 8 years old plus. We can make some exceptions depending on the maturity level, but again, the student is required to be able to sit down and memorize and study independently for a number of hours. So sometimes younger students aren't able to do that. And then the ability to have the basics of being able to read the Quran and recite the Quran fluently, and have some basics of the tajweed rules. And of course, we will be teaching them and improving that throughout the program. And yes. So Jazakumullah khair, and if you guys have any questions, I encourage everyone, of course, to enroll in the program. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to IQRA or myself, and we would be happy to answer any questions from you guys. So I'll pass it on to now alhamdulillah, the new instructor, the new team member of IQRA, who will be launching our part-time girls HIFZ program, inshallah.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum to everyone who's watching. Jazakallah khairan for joining us today. I am immensely blessed to be part of this IQRA Academy initiative for the girls part-time HIFZ. I, like the other Hafad over here as well, had to travel to complete my HIFZ. I had been memorizing a little bit as I was a child, but I really got into it when I was in high school. And so I did it I completed half, alhamdulillah, in Canada. So we had to travel from Boston, where I'm originally from. And but things didn't work. But alhamdulillah, I was able to finish it when we came back. Currently, I am pursuing my bachelor's degree in psychology communication with a minor in sociology. Bismillah ta'ala. This year will be my last year. I completed a diploma in Arabic language from the Markaz Taiba here in Medina. I've been here for a year, alhamdulillah, and honestly, it's been life changing. A lot of people, you know, you come here for Umrah, for Hajj, and like, oh, I wish I could live here. And if you get an opportunity to, I would definitely urge you to, because the way they and learn Quran here as well. The way they emphasize tajweed and makharij, it's completely next level. And my aim, inshallah, with the new Girls Hifz program is to embody that as well, and to give that spirit that I've learned from here, of learning Quran with that passion, with that dedication and commitment, into the girls as well. It's a known factor that, you know, the mother is the first university of a child, and if we equip the next generation of girls with the information and the, you know, everything, learning learning the Quran and the information of what it means, and the tafsir and the tajweed and everything, they can impart that knowledge into future generations, and that can become as a means of sadaqah jariyah for them as well. I'll definitely try to take what I learned from here and teach those to my children as well. If we can go back to the previous slide. I also studied Islamic studies in the Darul Uloom online, and the Arabic program over here, alhamdulillah, was very, very comprehensive, and I was able to like gain a more understanding. And I firmly believe that when a child is learning the Quran, it shouldn't just be, you know, a series of sounds. It should be with meaning, with understanding. So I myself, with my future students, inshallah, will be trying to, you know, guide them in terms of understanding the translation, so they can have a holistic picture and understanding of the Quran as well, so that they know what they're memorizing, and that they can learn from what they're memorizing as well, and you know, change their day-to-day life as well, inshallah. So not only have that memorization as a skill, but also to be able to become a more stronger and practical Muslim in this contemporary time, inshallah. And I'm very, very, very excited. And please do let us know if you have any questions, and we'll be more than welcome to answer them, inshallah.
MashaAllah. Welcome, Sister Sidra. Welcome, Ustad Usama. We are so excited to get these programs off the ground and to launch them. And really just to, you know, as a woman and as a mother to a girl, I'm all for, you know, girl education. I'm all for the empowering girls, especially when it comes to Islam. So we are so excited to get this program off the ground. If I'm going to take a look to the chat to see if we have any questions. A question I have here is how many teachers you have for the part-time program. Would you like to answer that, Abdullah, or?
Yeah, so currently we have 3 instructors. So depending on the timing, we currently have 2, like, I guess, teaching assistants as well, and 2 instructors. So I would say a total of 4 right now to help out. So depending on the amount of students enrolled at one given time, you know, that depends on the instructors that we have at our program.
Mm-hmm. And I would also say, I mentioned to the community, as the program grows, then of course we will accommodate the community. That has always been our effort, is to, you know, find qualified instructors. And as our need has grown, we have alhamdulillah been able to find instructors and to grow as well to meet the community demand. I do have another question for somebody, an adult looking to join the part-time program. Is there any criteria that would be different than what you would be looking for say, a younger student?
I would say no. Just the main thing is, of course, the commitment level. As long as they're able to commit to the timings and be able to kind of keep up with everything, then there's really no difference in in requirements. Like I said, we had one of our students who finished with us was a full-time. He worked full-time, and he was still able to, but he would be very dedicated as long he was every day here and reading, and that's just the main requirement. The commitment level needs to be there. We can't have someone coming, every couple of weeks. It's tough for us to be able to accommodate that.
Right. And one final question for the part-time HIFs. Is it mandatory that you memorize, or can you come to the program to learn how to read with proper tajweed, and you mentioned Makarish, or is it mandatory that you have to memorize?
That's a good question. And, every verse is a blessing to have memorized, right? So we don't necessarily require them. Okay, if you can't memorize from start to finish, you're not, you can't enroll into the program. No, that's not the case. We look at it from a blessing from ourselves and sadaqah jari for ourselves. If we can teach a student ayah to memorize, and then they can retain that, that would be our goal. So we have some students that may not necessarily want to complete it, but maybe their goal is to memorize 10 ajza. Maybe their goal is to memorize 5. Maybe they just want to do juz amma. So we are completely okay with that. That's why we accommodate all of those students that want to do that.
Okay, great. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. So I don't have any other questions. If there's anything else you guys would want to add, then I will jump right into the admissions process and how parents can join. So basically with all 3 programs, you would visit our website at iqrainstitute.org, and all of the applications and registrations are up and available online. For the full-time HIFs program, there is an application fee of $75. Once you have registered your student and paid that fee, then I will be in contact with you to set up the next step, which would be the interview process with Ustad Usama. From there, from his evaluation, if you are accepted into the program, he would let me know. I will send admissions confirmation, and along with that, you will receive your financial contract with the fees listed. So you have your technology fee, supply fee. At that time, those fees will be due for payment, and what that will do is solidify and hold your placement for that program. If you are doing the PALCS enrollment, from the moment that you are accepted, then you must apply for PALCS ASAP. Especially with the pandemic, with COVID-19 going on, they are expecting an influx of online learning applications. So with PALCS, usually the process with them is that you will submit all your paperwork, documentation for your student. Once they receive all that, then they will set you up with an orientation. You will attend that orientation. From that point, you will then, that basically solidifies your enrollment into PALCS, and then they will issue you all of your materials, laptop, headphones, printer, books, and materials that go along depending on what grade you're entering. So that is of the utmost importance, because the later you wait, the later it takes for your materials to come. So then if you don't have your online materials that you need, then you're behind in the class already. So that is the process for the HIFs program. And again, the tuition with PALCS included is $6,500. For the HIFs only is $4,500. And then moving to the girls and boys part-time HIFs program, there is no registration or application fee for that, because your admission is based on your interview and your evaluation. So you would just go online, you would apply there, and then I would contact you and then set up an evaluation with Usaid Abdullah or Sada Sidra, and then you will go from there. Now, with IQRA full-time, as Ustad Usama had mentioned, there is the summer intensive, so either you can opt into that or it might be mandatory. Otherwise, school session starts in September. For the boys part-time HIFS program, once you apply, once you have your evaluation, you are automatically, you can start right away. For the girls HIFS program, that will be up and running September. So we're just laying the groundwork for that, getting everybody ready and situated for the September for the girls part-time program. So just to be aware that both the full-time program and the girls HIF program will begin in September. But the boys HIF program, we have a summer session that is currently in session right now, and you can go right away into that program. So the fee for the part-time program is $195 per month, and that we do offer a 10% discount with any siblings that do come in. So I will take one more quick look at the chat. And the question is, what is the maximum class size? Usama, you can answer. You did say that there was a cap for the program, for the full-time program, if you wanted to answer for that program.
So the ideal class size would be a maximum, I'd say, of 10 students, because we do have restricted time of listening to each student's new lesson. All three components takes a good amount of time, especially if students are studying half a juz of revision, or even 2 juz of revision. We would need to have a classroom size of less than 10 students, inshallah.
Okay.
Ideally.
And Ustad Abdullah, I don't believe that you guys have a limit, but if you would like to elaborate on that.
I'm sorry, a limit of amount of students?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think we do not have a limit. The more students we have, then maybe the more instructors we would include. And sometimes with more students, we would have 2 instructors in a given class. So it all depends, but we don't cap it out. Again, we would have more instructors, but to facilitate more students.
Okay. And then one other question I'm seeing here, it says, so if an adult enrolls, would they sit in the same classroom as the children?
Yes. A student, yeah, because we have one, we basically like sit in the musalla area. So, the instructors and the students and the adults are all in the same area. So that would be a similar setup.
And I think too, as Ustad Usama mentioned, it's very, and as you mentioned too, Abdullah, it's very self-guided, self-paced. So while the instructor would be with one student, then it would be your responsibility to be listening or doing your recitation by yourself, basically. So yeah. I don't think, like, they shouldn't fear that it's,
adults.
Yeah.
It's not contained in that one specific area. So if the adult wants to sit in a separate area of the musalla, knowing that they are responsible for their own, because they are responsible adults, they would have the option to sit in a separate area to feel a bit more at ease if they want to use that option.
Right.
But the kids, if the children, they would be closer to the teacher, so we're able to monitor a bit better.
Yes. And also, before we go into the closing remarks and our closing dua, I just wanted to share that although this open house was primarily for our new and ongoing HIFS program, for the person that inquired for their 5-year-old, I would encourage you, we're going to have another open house in July where we're going to feature all of our programs, and we have a couple amazing programs going on. We have our full-time regular school programming, and that we do Quran, Arabic, Islamic studies. So it might be nice to put your 5-year-old in that program just to give them, a head start. We also have our after-school program, which they would qualify for as well. So you have either a full-time or a part-time option for that as well to prepare them and lead them if if your expectation or your desire is to go into the HIFS program. And that's one of the beauties that we have tried to also develop at IQRA, is that we have one program that inshallah will lead into the next. So this year we had our little Dean Seekers, which is for our little guys, you know, up to age 4. And they are starting out with like reading, learning du'as and that type of thing, just to really solidify their adab and their, you know, relationship with Islam. So from that program, you can either go to the full-time or you can go into after school. From after school, you can either go to full-time HIFS now or to the part-time HIFS. So alhamdulillah, each program leads right into the other. So
Yeah.
if these programs don't work for a 5-year-old, we have definitely other options for you.
Yes, and that to just elaborate a little bit on that, there were a number of students that came to me that were maybe 5, 6 years old, and I evaluated them. They were still a little bit young, so we kind of guided them to the after school program where they were able to kind of build that foundation with that program, with Arabic and with the ability to read and kind of memorize the basics, and then they transitioned later on to the HIFS program. So. That's definitely an option. Like if they're not eligible to start with our HIFS programs, we can certainly facilitate them to start at one of our IQRA after school programs and then transition into the other programs, like you said.
Okay. And then I also wanted to mention our full-time program, our regular full-time school. We do Quran and Arabic. It's not on the same intensity that this HIFS program would be. So just to be aware of that, they are still learning Quran. They're learning Tajweed and all that. So you're still getting that same Islamic component to it, just not at a higher intensity of what the new program would be. And so I'll take one final look and then we'll close out with Ustad Usama with our closing dua. So you're asking about the school if it's without HIFS. So our full-time program for the elementary is $5,000 for the tuition. Fees are $500 activity fee, $100 for supply fee, $50 for technology fee. That's our regular full-time school. If you have a pre-K student, then the tuition, I believe, is $7,000 for the year. And that program runs from September to May. Also, the registration for all of our programs are open. I encourage you to really visit our website, take a look, read our instructors' bios, read about our program descriptions. Again, my email, my phone number is scrolling across the bottom, so you can reach out at any time. I'd be happy to help you in any way I can. So at this time, Ustad Usama, if you could close us out with our dua.
Before I start the dua, I just want everyone to take a moment and pray for those that are going through trials and tribulations regarding the COVID situation all around the world. We all know someone that's been impacted, someone that has contracted the disease, and some family and some member of someone we know has been impacted by this devastating tragedy. So we ask, just a couple hours ago, I was given the news that my mother's best friend in Pakistan, her husband passed away. So it's a difficult situation all around the world. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to alleviate this calamity and allow us to come out from it stronger. Oh ya Allah, the Almighty, the All-Forgiving. Oh ya Allah, forgive us of our sins. Oh ya Allah, remove us from this difficulty. Ya Allah, remove us from this calamity. اللهم ارفع عنا هذا الوباء يا رب العالمين يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اكشف عنا هذا الوباء يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم ارفع عنا هذا الوباء يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم حبب إلينا الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان. اللهم اجعلنا من الراشدين. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين وجعلنا للمتقين إماما. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين وجعلنا للمتقين إماما. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين وجعلنا للمتقين إماما. Oh Ya Allah, we have gathered on this blessed day for your sake, Ya Allah, to come closer to you by putting our children into programs to worship you, Ya Allah, to come closer to Ya Allah, to learn about your deen, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, we gathered here on this day for your sake to learn more about programs and to create awareness about your deen, Ya Allah. Make our children on the straight path, Ya Allah. Protect them from going astray, Ya Allah. Protect us from going astray, Ya Allah. In these difficult times, make our families more united, Ya Allah. In these difficult times, make us closer to one another, Ya Allah. We are closer in proximity to one another, spending more time with one another more than ever before, Ya Allah. Put barakah and your rahmah in that, so that we come closer to one another, and let this not be a means of us fighting and becoming distant from one another. Ya Allah, make us emotionally strong. Ya Allah, make us spiritually strong. Ya Allah, make us closer to you. Ya Allah, accept all of our endeavors. Ya Allah, accept all of the sacrifices of all those responsible of putting these programs together. Ya Allah, there's a team working behind the curtains dedicated for your cause. Ya Allah, Ya Allah, bless them and increase them in their iman, increase them in their istiqamah, and increase them in their istita'a and their ability to build programs for the entire community, for all of us to benefit from. Ya Allah. Ya Allah, grant us Jannatul Firdaus al-A'la. Ya Allah, grant us Jannatul Firdaus al-A'la. Ya Allah, this world is a test, and you are the only one that will make this test easy and grant us victory in it. Ya Allah, we ask you for Jannatul Firdaus al-A'la. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا وعملا صالحا ورزقا طيبا وشفاء من كل داء. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا. اللهم إنا نسألك الجنة وما قرب إليها من قول أو فعل أو عمل. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من النار وما قرب إليها من قول أو فعل أو عمل. اللهم صل على محمد وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون سلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاك الله خيرا أحسن الجزاء. Thank you all for joining in. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of your intentions. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us all sincere in our endeavors. Make us all amongst those who make the decisions based on what is most pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
كتاب الله دستوري كتاب الله دستوري وخير الخلق أسوتنا
بسنته جلا نوري لهدي الحق أرشدنا
كتاب الله دستوري وخير الخلق أسوتنا بسنته جلا نوري لهدي الحق أرشدنا كتاب الله دستوري وخير الخلق أسوتنا.
Assalamu alaikum. I want to once again thank everyone for joining us today. I hope that your questions were answered. I want to thank as well all of the staff and instructors that put time and effort into their presentations. A couple of just quick announcements in closing. July 12th, we're going to be having an actual in-person open house at 2 p.m. at the facility. Again, that's July 12th. It's a Sunday at 2 p.m. And all of the programs are going to be featured. All the teachers and instructors that were here today, inshallah, will be there. We're going to also be featuring, again, the full-time regular full-time Islamic school, as well as the after-school program and Little Deen Seekers. So please come and try to attend that as well. And lastly, there were a few questions regarding the COVID-19 coronavirus situation and how our facility is going to accommodate for the upcoming academic year starting in September. Currently, the facility is open for daily prayers as well as Jummah with limitations. And in September, inshallah, our plan is to follow what's recommended by the CDC guidelines in the state of Pennsylvania. We are planning, we have different options in place that we have as contingencies, but our goal is to have in some sort of in-person instruction for all of our programs. Again, following the CDC safety guidelines, but we have a committee in place that are going over those different plans. And when we get closer to the actual school year of starting, the detailed plans will be sent out to all the families that are enrolled in the programs, inshallah. But at the very least, if any, we definitely have different options. And at the very least, if something gets worse than where it is today, we would be having virtual instruction. That's what we did during these last few months. So again, everything is continuing, whether it's a hybrid approach, whether it's full-time in-person instruction, or whether it's full-time virtual. Inshallah, everything will be proceeding. And again, if you have any other further questions on this, please contact Sister Nicole or call our phone line, and we will be happy to answer your questions. Again, we thank you for coming, and inshallah, we'll see you at the next one. Assalamu alaikum.
كتاب الله دستوري كتاب الله دستوري وخير الخلق أسوتنا
بسنتهم جلا نوري لهدي الحق أرشدنا
كتاب الله دستوري وخير الخلق أسوتنا بسنته جلا نوري لهدي الحق أرشدنا كتاب الله دستوري وخير الخلق أسوتنا بسنته جلا نوري لهدي الحق أرشدنا لزمت محاضن القرآن فذكر الله يسعدنا عرفنا إخوة الإيمان وللأخيار صحبتنا تميزنا بكل الفن وتجمعنا محبتنا وصدق القول نعرفه وخير الخلق يعرفنا تعالينا على الأحقاد مع المخطي تسامحنا تنافسنا بحفظ الآي وهذا ما يميزنا كتاب الله دستوري وخير الخلق أسوتنا بسنته جلا نوري لهدي الحق أرشدنا كتاب الله دستوري وخير الخلق أسوتنا بسنته جلا نوري